Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing really well. Today we are back with another list video. I am kind of on a roll with these, and there was a list of books I was making and I was like, they have something in common, but I don't know how exactly to categorize them. And I'm sure you've read the title, so I'm sure you're very well aware of how I ended up categorizing these. But yeah, these are books that just completely altered my brain chemistry and broke my version of reality in a good way, probably. So yeah, we're just gonna dive straight in. So my number one book that I've had on this list for probably since I read it was I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman. Oh my God. When I read this book, I actually read it in tandem with my friend. She was actually the one who brought it to my attention to read in the first place. I would say reading this book, I completely detached from my current reality because it was so eerie and weird, but in like a really good way. I don't even know how to explain it, but I'm going to do my best so that you guys understand some context. Basically, I would call it a dystopian fiction. We have these 40 female prisoners and they're held in this underground bunker. And it's just that's the whole like scenario. Our narrator is one of the prisoners, and it just starts off with her talking us through her life and their routine in this underground prison. And they are guarded by all these male guards. And it's just a really eerie, like weird dynamic, kind of like set in the future, but we don't know what happened in the past. Like clearly, like some big event happened. And so, yeah, we're just taken into this like almost hypothetical like scenario. And the narrator is one of the prisoners and she's kind of talking about their life. Something happens, and obviously the story evolves, but I won't get it too much into it because I think part of this book is really going in blind. Like you really have to know nothing to experience the full journey, the full range of emotions. I would say this book broke my brain because it completely kind of tests your understanding of what do you think it means to be human? Like, what do you think? Is it like community? Is it having men and women in a society? Is it humans needing to have a purpose? Like, what should that purpose be? What is the idea of like families? What should a family look like? Yeah, just like completely questioning what you think a human needs. Philosophically speaking, what does it mean to be human? Which sounds really deep, but this is a fictional story. And I just feel like the setting and the story that unfolds with this main character, you're just sort of left in a bit like, huh. Yeah, the main character just kind of questioning purpose and life and humanity in this like alien environment. So if that sounds like what you want to read, definitely read it. The imagery in this book is very like hollow and emptiness. There's no warmth. And I think even that in itself makes you feel kind of uncomfortable. So if you want to feel uncomfortable, but in a good way, this is the book for you. So yeah, I Who Have Never Known Men. My second book, my second choice is Animal Farm by George Orwell. And I know this is such a classic. I know some of you may have even studied it in school. I actually studied 1984 in school, but I never read Animal Farm. And I feel like it was time. I felt like I needed to uncover what Animal Farm was always about. I heard it always coming back up. And I was like, I always need to read that book. It's always in the back of my mind. I should read that book. I should read it. And now I finally have. And it's just it's very much the similar theme it's actually quite similar to I Who Have Never Known Men in the sense that it's very short, but every detail and every plot point has a purpose. And I think that's what makes it so hard hitting. We are basically set in a farm with all these different farm animals, and essentially these farm animals feel that their human owners treat them really unfairly and overwork them. And so they plan to overthrow them and establish their new form of government where they can be treated fairly and equally and have a lot of rest and happiness and freedom. Keyword, freedom. And that's kind of how the book starts. And obviously, because this is a George Orwell novel, things kind of start to fall through and deteriorate into a state that is not at all what they intended to set out. But the idea behind Animal Farm, if you don't know, is it's sort of a huge metaphor for socialism and the socialism that was being projected at the time of the USSR during Stalin's rule. And the idea was, I believe, my research could be wrong, but from what I read, the idea was the world was sort of in awe of this new age of socialism in Russia, and they were sort of hailing Russia as figuring out the new perfect government state to be in. But there was a lot of corruption and obviously a lot of unfortunate things that were happening with people dying and starving and things like that. And George Orwell, being a huge advocate and a true believer in socialism, felt that what Russia was portraying at the time was harmful. So the idea behind Animal Farm is this metaphor, basically, of how we kind of set out to do something with good intentions, such as establish socialist government, and how it kind of breaks down due to human corruption. Kind of at the time where I think a lot of countries were trying to protect Russia in the media, and George Orwell wanted to kind of stand up and speak out and show the flaws in their system because he was a true socialist and he felt that the idea of what Russia was portraying as socialism was actually harmful. So yeah, I feel like he nailed it. And I think a lot of experts feel that too. It's a very old book. It's a classic. It's very famous for a well-known reason. Because at the end of the day, it is a fictional story with farm animals. But you quickly piece together the key message that he's trying to get through, and it hits hard. So if you want to be completely mind-warped, Animal Farm. Okay, we're on to my next book. Everything is dying. Camera, microphone, everything is literally about to die. So hopefully we can make it through. But obviously I was thinking, what other book do I put on this list? And I had to put a Toni Morrison book. I read Beloved and The Bluest Eye, and I was like, which one? But I had to go with Beloved. Beloved, oh my God. I don't even know where to begin. That's every book in this list. I don't know where to begin. Beloved follows our main character, Seethe, her mother-in-law, Baby Sulks, and her daughter, who live in House 124. And it just follows their post-enslaved lives in America. We also get flashbacks to their time on the particular plantation that they used to work on and experiences they had, as well as there are other male characters that kind of come into play in their past as well. But oh my God, like it is truly completely like soul shattering, the kind of things you read in this. So definitely read trigger warnings. Like it's on the level of a little life. So please read trigger warnings if you want to avoid. But essentially, yeah, it follows the lives of the slaves during that time in America. Specifically, the way they have it's the voice of these people and their interactions, how they, I don't even know if navigate is the right word, but it just paints an understanding, or it paints a picture of their pain and the suffering and the post-traumatic trauma and stress they experience, and not just the physical pain but the psychological and the mental. It's so deep. It's cellular. Like it's embedded on a cellular level in these people, and it's just, I think, truly the only real thing that I have read that I feel like I can sort of understand what slavery was like and how it impacted, or what it did. I shouldn't say impacted because that makes it sound so nice, but yeah, what it did to those people. And yeah, it's completely soul destroying, I will say, but it's very eye-opening, and that's why I think it's an important read. I don't think Beloved was her first book, so I think she really honed her craft and honed her voice and just completely opened a window into that time for me to actually like get a glimpse, like a real glimpse. So yeah, there was a little intro me just reaching for my notes because I had to write something down, otherwise I'll forget. And when you read something like this, you just can't forget. You can't. It's a crime. So there was a little intro from Bernardine Evaristo. Anyway, she just said this quote, and I feel like it just explains it very succinctly. From the very beginning of the novel, she is unrelenting in describing the cruelty of slavery and its impact on the lives of the enslaved. So yeah, and it's just a lot. It's a lot. I would say it just completely, I think, removes any sugar-coated explanation you have ever gotten about slavery. So if you want to know more, if you want to know the reality, and you're okay with the trigger warnings, check out Beloved. Okay, we're up to our fourth and final book, and technically this is not a fiction, but when I read it, completely opened my mind, so we're going to include it, and that is A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf. If you don't know, this is like a short summary of a lecture she gave at Cambridge in 1928, where she was asked to talk about women and fiction. And so instead of just like basically talking about women and fiction, she kind of talks through her approach of the topic and like her trying to do research on this topic and basically her thought process throughout that whole journey. And it was just really eye-opening about the state of society, women's role in society at the time. And realistically, we're going through the point of that was we're going through Virginia Woolf's perspective, and it's sort of her like telling us about life and reality at the time, but drawing conclusions. Like she's almost realizing things as she's telling us about them, and it's so interesting. So essentially, she kind of first off tries to look into women. So she goes to the British Museum and tries to look at all the texts about women, and they're all written by men. And she's like, okay, feels like something's missing. So she goes home and she looks on her own bookshelf at her personal library and tries to look at all the previous female authors. And there's like Charlotte Bronte and Jane Austen. There's not a lot, like not a lot at all. And so she's kind of just looking through these texts and she's going real far back as she can. I think maybe the earliest is like 16th century. Like I'm talking 16th century, really trying to delve into who are the main women, you know? And there's so few. And she's trying to understand why. Like, why is this the case? And so she reflects on, she's recently come into a bit of inheritance. And so she's talking about the freedom that has given her to go and go to a cafe and sit and think, or have her own room and accommodation, to have her own space, to hone in on her own creativity and to write and have the space and the freedom and the time. And so it just gets her thinking about the environment that women have been in, the sort of state that women have been kind of subjected to, and why they don't have the facilities. So she's literally talking about the physical things. Like women don't have a physical room to go off, seclude themselves and like focus. There's constant distraction around them, usually in the household. She talks about there's very few careers that a woman can do and earn her own money. I don't even think women could own any property at that point in time. They were just given the right to vote. And she's sort of delving into all of these things and trying to like understand why women are not writing more. You know, why is there not more work by women? Oh, and she also talked about, why do women like gravitate towards writing poems and fiction? Is it something that they can do when there is distraction around them? Is that why? So, oh my God, what's happening? Yeah. So it's just really fascinating. I think for me, it was truly just eye-opening to understand that time period in that country, obviously in England. So I feel like maybe if you study this in school or you've learnt about this state of the world at the time, it may not be anything revolutionary, but because it was all new for me, I was like, that is crazy. It's not even 100 years ago that was happening. There's actually the opening scene in the book was her going to university. She was on campus and she wanted to enter into the library. This is Virginia Woolf that I'm talking about. And the like, I don't know, librarian or the main guard or whatever in the library was like, no, you can't enter because you're a woman. You either need to be accompanied by a male, like a male who's part of the university, or you need to have a letter that allows you entry. And I thought that is crazy. That is crazy because I literally went to the library, drove there in my car, went to the library, didn't interact with anybody. I just went and picked that book up and like tapped it, brought it out of the library and brought it home. And it's crazy to think that she couldn't even enter into a library. And 100 years later, I went into a library not needing anyone's permission just to retrieve the book. Like, it's kind of like a little like mind crazy. It's just a little bit weird. It's just a weird time. But yeah, that was my final book. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you've read any of these because I would love to hear what you thought. And until next time, bye.